Welcome back to Cheaping for Beginners, folks. Once again, my name is Josh, and today we are going to discuss recovery. But before we get too deep into that subject, I just want to mention that there are all kinds of ideas, opinions, and things that everybody feels that you should carry with you anytime that you travel off-road. I am not going to cover everything that's out there. Okay? Instead, what we're going to cover is the definition of what recovery is. There are multiple different versions of recovery when you are on a trail, and I'm going to talk about the bare minimum, or at least the necessities that you need to have in order to meet each one of those needs. So you know what? Stick around. I think you're going to enjoy this. Welcome back to the channel, folks. Once again, like I mentioned in the offset, we are going to be talking about recovery. We are not going to be getting deep into each and every single piece of equipment that is on the market because, believe me, there is a plethora of tools out there that you could obtain and carry with you. Instead, we are going to just talk about the basics. First and foremost, though, as I was thinking about this video, was thinking about the concept of recovery and narrowed it down to there are 3 different types of recovery that you may face when you hit the trail with your Jeep, your side-by-side, or your off-road vehicle. So instead, let's talk about those 3 different types of recovery, what they mean, and the basics of what you should have with you in order to face those situations. First and foremost, before we get into that, I do want to mention that if you are ever in a position where you need recovery, let's say you are hung up on something, stuck in the mud, hung up on a rock, or the vehicle is broken down, you do not want to be on the trail by yourself. I know I've said this multiple times in the past, but I'm a huge advocate that your best friend when it comes to recovery is your best friend. So please make sure you are not on the trail alone. So that being said, let's dive straight in to topic number 1. All right, guys, so the first type of recovery is, in fact, the type of recovery that you're thinking about. Let's say the vehicle is stuck in the snow, stuck in the mud, hung up on a rock, maybe wedged between 2 trees, or for whatever reason, you're just in a position where you can't get the wheels to the ground or can't get traction to your tires. Having a buddy with you and using something as simple as a 10,000-pound tow strap, which I always recommend carrying with you, is a great idea. Usually just one little tug and we can get you back on the road. If a tow strap is either not long enough or because of the terrain, the situation is not allowing another vehicle to get close enough to you in order to be able to tug you off, then a good recommendation is to have a winch on the front of the vehicle. Most winches carry anywhere from 75 to 100 feet of lead, either steel cable or synthetic rope, that will allow you a much further distance in order to anchor to something in order to get the vehicle moving along. In either instance, I'm always going to recommend a pair of gloves. Why? Because it's easy to get your hands snagged, it's easy to get splinters, and it's easy to overwork the situation that you're in. Gloves is always a good idea. So, tip number 1, for recovery when the vehicle is actually stuck or hung up on something, having a simple tow strap, which you could pick up at Harbor Freight for $10, or having a winch on the front of your vehicle is always a good idea. While we're on the subject of not getting traction to your wheels, not having a winch or not having a tow strap doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't something that you can carry with you. In the last few years, there has been a huge development in ideas when it comes to off-road traction. One of those I actually bought into and I think is a fantastic idea. If your vehicle is stuck in the snow, stuck even in the mud, or in my case, since I spend a lot of time out in the desert, getting stuck in the sand is actually something that we bump into on a fairly regular basis. Now, keeping your tires aired down and keeping your vehicle maintained will get you through a lot of that, but when you do get stuck, that extra little bit of traction can get you on the road. Now check this out. Having A traction board like this MaxTrax traction board that I have here can make a huge difference in getting traction back to the tire. Um, I'm not advocating that doing it by yourself is something that you should be doing, but in a situation where maybe the group has split up a little bit, or it's just a simple little thing you need to get over and you don't want to take the time to pull a tow strap, sticking a quick traction board up underneath your tire gives you that extra little bit of bite that you would need to maybe get that tire rolling and get you back on the trail. So another piece of advice that I recommend and have started carrying with me over the last few years is having a traction board. All right, folks, so when it comes to vehicle recovery, it can be kept extremely simple. All you're looking to do is either tug the vehicle forward, tug the vehicle backwards, or get some traction to those wheels so that you can get the rig moving again. Your terrain in your area where you may be wheeling may call for something a little bit different. The basic needs that I always recommend is have a tow strap. If you can afford it, have a winch on the front of the vehicle, and certainly a set of traction boards, and you'll pretty much conquer just about any situation. Other types of recovery gear that I do carry with me, because you never know, and every once in a blue moon I have used, is a high lift jack, carrying of a shovel or a pickaxe or something in order to either dig underneath your wheels or to be able to cut down some lumber. If you don't have a traction board, again, we could go nuts in the little stuff that you could carry with you. I do carry a lot of those other little things because you never know. But when I thought about it and broke it down, it's really just those three things that you could use, and it gets you just about out of any vehicle recovery situation. Now, out here in the desert, I don't use a whole lot. I've always been able to get my rig home no matter what the situation. There has been one or two times where I've used every single piece of recovery equipment in that vehicle in order to get it home, but I've always gotten it home. So play it safe, play it smart, make sure that you're not putting yourself in a dangerous situation, and those three things will help you get out. Now, vehicle recovery, like I said, was only one instance of recovery on the trail. So what's number two? So the second type of recovery that you could bump into off-road is mechanical. Now, I always carry a set of hand tools with me because you never know if something rattles loose or something needs to be repaired. A set of pliers is always a good idea, especially when we start talking about electrical fuses, those kind of things. But there are a couple of main points that I like to point out that everybody should have with them. One is a battery backup or a jump box. This guy right here has saved my life multiple times, and for $100 off Amazon, I recommend it to everybody. Why? Because let's say you're on the trail, you stop for lunch, you got the vehicle off for 45 minutes to an hour, but you're charging your phone, you still got your radio on the dash going, communication, so on and so forth, and you don't think about it, but the battery in the vehicle dies. Well, being able to get it jump started and back up on the trail is a huge advantage. Camping especially, that's got to be my number one thing. The other thing I like to point out is you should always have some sort of a flashlight with you no matter what. I don't know about you, but we always end up on the trails after dark somehow or another, and if something were to happen, especially in a vehicle recovery situation, you might need to be able to see what you're doing in the dark, so having a fully charged flashlight is always a good idea. Now, as far as mechanical recovery goes, sometimes it's not as dire as the vehicle broke down. Sometimes we get a flat tire. Having the tools necessary in order to get your tires off, such as a high lift jack, a bottle jack, a tire iron, an impact gun, whatever the case may be that you feel comfortable with, so that you can get your spare on the vehicle and get back on the road. And last but not least, we all air down our tires when we're off-road. So a piece of equipment you should always carry with you is a compressor. This will get the air back in the tires so that when you're back on the road, you don't get that nasty, soupy feeling driving the vehicle home. So when it comes to recovery, it's more than just getting the vehicle unstuck. being able to repair the vehicle on the trail, get it jump started should you have a dead battery, get air back in your tires so that you can get back on there, is a form of recovery that people don't think about that you really should. So my advice is always carry a set of basic hand tools, always carry a way to get your battery jump started should it go dead, and a compressor is a fantastic idea. Ah, yeah. All right, guys. So, number 3 on the list is recovery for you. Okay? This is something I have found so many people do not think about. Okay? Yes, we talked about getting the rig unstuck. We talk about maintaining it and the tools necessary to repair it should the battery go dead or a flat tire come off. And I've got several videos in the past on this channel discussing each one of those topics individually. But what about you? You know, it takes a lot out of us as the driver or even as a passenger when you're off-road. The energy level can sink. So, making sure that you've got the drink of your choice to keep you either hydrated or at least energized. In my case, I am a huge fan of Mountain Dew, and anybody who wheels with me knows that I never go anywhere without at least a dozen of these guys. And it's always a good idea to have snacks of some sort with you to be able to take that edge off that bite. Something high in carb like chips or crackers or something that's going to maintain keeping that energy level going. But that's not the only thing you need to worry about. All right, if you spend more than an hour, sometimes more than 2 hours off-road, you're gonna bump into what we like to call nature giving you a call. So that being said, it's always a good idea to have a shovel for obvious reasons and a roll of toilet paper with you. It's not something people like to talk about, but it's something that I have found multiple times. I get people running up to me in the middle of the day going, Josh, do you have a roll of toilet paper, or do you have something I can use? I've really got to go. So think about that, okay? But what about the instance of the vehicle's fine, mechanically it's fine, you even have all the energy that you need, but somebody gets hurt, somebody scrapes a knee, twists an ankle, cuts a finger, or so on and so forth, which again, folks, happens, so you got to consider that. I always also recommend carrying a fully stocked first aid kit with you off-road. In this kit, I picked up off Amazon for 30 bucks, I think. Has pretty much everything you could possibly need for cuts, bruises, burns, and mild first aid off-road. Now, granted, if somebody gets severely hurt, like a broken bone or a severed limb, you're going to want to call, for some first aid or some real medical assistance. But this should be able to get you home. Now, the last thing that I carry in our self-recovery bag is this little guy. I picked this up off Amazon for 20 bucks. This is a Deep Woods survival kit. It has the little basics of everything you could need. Pocket knife. It's got a little wire saw for cutting down branches. It's got a blanket to help keep you warm. It's got fire starters, a flashlight, all kinds of stuff in here. I want to say this was like a 54-piece kit, which seems minimal, seems like something that not everybody would think about, but for 20 bucks, you never know when you need what's actually inside this kit. I can tell you multiple times we've gone in here for something that has helped us for self-recovery. So that being said, folks, number 3, which is something that I don't want to minimalize, is self-recovery. Take care of yourselves. Make sure you've got the proper shoes. Make sure you've got the proper weather gear if it's raining, if it's cold, if it's too hot. Sunscreen in the summer. Make sure you've got drinks, snacks. That way you can recover yourself. So there's 3 types of recovery, folks. Vehicle recovery, mechanical recovery, and of course, self-recovery. So of all those things, most of your Jeep brand products, your 4-door Wranglers, 2-door Wranglers, your Cherokees, Grand Cherokees, doesn't matter what you're riding, most of everything we talked about can easily fit in the back of the vehicle with space to spare. All right, folks, so there you have it. Just a few simple things that you should bring with you to attack the majority of just about every situation that you can run into off-road. I've said it multiple times in the past, I'm not necessarily 100% expert on this subject, but I do know what works for me, my friends, and multiple situations that I've been in myself and seen other people get into over the last 20 years. So you might come up with something completely different, and that's okay. The point is to make sure that you plan ahead, you know what you're going to get into, and you can get on and off the trail and back home safely. So once again, folks, my name is Josh. This is Jeeping for Beginners. If you have any questions at all or would like to reach out to me, my email is in the description down below this video. And in the meantime, stay safe, folks. Never wheel alone. Happy Jeeping, and we will see you next time.